Well, let's get started, everybody. It's raining. We're going to have a beautiful light show later. So I won't be going outside today. I'm going to be staying inside because I don't like to garden in thunderstorms. Go figure. So today, I just thought there was such a great question yesterday that I really wanted to explore more. And as soon as I got off the call yesterday, I turned on a program and it was talking about the very question that was asked that was so good. Since it appears COVID-19 doesn't kill as many people as the flu, why do we have to be locked down? And great question. We talked about some of it, which is totally valid, but there's even a bigger reason. So I just thank all of you for being here today. This is Cindy with Energized Living Today. And of course, Ferris and Andrew is going to be reading our questions if everybody wants to just put them in chat, and he will be getting to those. And Andrew, I like the background that you put up. That's cool.
Pretty fancy.
Yeah. He's getting all fancy on us.
Well, I'm doing a podcast interview at 1 o'clock in a couple of hours, so.
Oh, cool. Cool. So anyways, anytime that we have these general chats like this, we're putting that, again, in our Facebook private page, not on the public page. I will probably edit parts of it and put it on the public page, but I really want this to be between us, these deeper conversations like this. And it is the speakers that we have that we will post on our public page, and then we will bring that over to the private page. We also will put the speakers on our YouTube channel, and Ferris is going to create in our membership site, for those of you who are not on Facebook, you can go to our membership site and he will post the videos in there so that you can listen to them later. We're also going to be posting the audios. So Ferris, write that on your notes. That's your homework. Now that you're feeling well, I'm putting you back to work.
I didn't say I'm well, I'm sick.
Does everybody feel sorry for him? Yeah. Okay. Well, there was a program that they had, and I actually was trying to get to this. It was The Last Word by Lawrence O'Donnell on Wednesday night. They interviewed Bill Gates and also this scientist that was talking about the science behind everything that was going on. And it was really fascinating. I didn't get a chance to watch all of it because, quite honestly, as Mary knows, we talked last night, we both had a glass of wine, and it takes about this much for me to get a buzz. I just don't do well with alcohol, but I've been trying to do better. My doctor wants me to drink a half a glass of wine every day, and I've always had an issue with it until we found this wine that doesn't have the tannins and the histamines in it as badly as other ones. So I've been a little better at drinking on Fridays, not every day. I can't do it. But on Friday nights, I've been trying to drink a half a glass of wine.
So. You did good.
Did I do good? But my speech slurs really fast. I don't know why. I've always been that way. I've never been able to be a good drinker. So
it was fun.
Yeah, we had a good time, didn't we? We were singing and partying,
laughing and carrying on like a couple of goons.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Today, I have a calendar here, and this is from Michael Singer, and I just adore this. It's from The Untethered Soul. For those of you who have not read it, I really suggest it. It's wonderful. And today's quote says, "True love doesn't judge. Love sees nothing but beauty in its beloved." So that is a quote from the book. And this inspires me every day. I always like to have these daily quotes. You know, they come like this. I'm sure you've seen these daily quotes in calendars, and I love them because it gives you one thought to really focus on every day. And again, this one is from The Untethered Soul, and right now if they've got any left, all of these are on clearance. So you might want to check and see if they still have the calendars. And just, I love to be inspired. So I always have lots of calendars around. I also have one that's goofy downstairs that looks on the lighter side of things. One around too that has some humor in it. I always like that too. It's important to laugh, especially when we're going through these really difficult times like we are right now. And I say really difficult times, but how difficult is it really? We are being asked to look at the world in a whole new way. And, if you look at a little kid, and I love this, and I look forward to seeing this in my great grandbaby. She's exploring things right now. Her hands are new to her, and she's always looking at her hands, and she's trying to figure out how to get her whole hand into her mouth, that kind of stuff. But as she gets older and she starts to walk, and when babies start to walk, you will see that they always bend over and look through their legs. And why do they do that? Because it's a whole new way of looking at the world. And we can take that as an example of what we should be doing at this time, which is looking at the world through different eyes, through a different perspective. And then we can get through this with minimal stress. And one of the ways to do that is, don't judge, just love. Love people, because that even the worst behavior, it's their soul contract. We don't know why they chose that soul contract. Do we want to still act and say, no, this behavior is wrong? Yes, on this earth plane, we can do that. But on a higher level, always remember, in a soul contract, there is love there. They came here to play this role as a jerk or whatever it is, or as the divine one, spreading love and light. That was their soul contract to do that in this lifetime. So love them on a soul level. So that's my little advice for today before we get started. Ferris, is there anything that you want to say before we get going?
There was, but I forgot it. It'll come back.
Okay. The question, once again, that I love. Oh, before we get to that, Debbie, I want you to share, just in what we were just saying. You had a beautiful way of looking at the situation, and I want you to share it with everyone.
Unmuted. Well, I'm going to be doing my art stuff and start doing my classes that I've registered for. So I'm referring to myself as an artist in residence.
Yes. Instead of sheltering in place,
yes,
she's an artist in residence. I love that, Debbie. It's so great.
So just find out what kind of an artist you are, and you'll be an artist in residence.
I love that. I'm going to try and paint something. Maybe something different than just a wall. Actually, I do murals too. I've got some murals in my house that I've created, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. But as artwork like you, I don't know that I can do that.
Yeah, I actually have pretty intensive classes. I didn't realize, but I just wrote a list of everything I wanted to learn, and I found all my classes.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, somebody that I know that she graduated and took graduate studies in art, and then she worked in art. She looked at all my material a couple months ago. I said, yeah, I think I could finish it in 2 years. She goes, nah. I said, well, maybe 4. She goes, nah. She goes, Debbie, what you did is you did a graduate program. It's going to take you 6 years. But she loved what I did, what I took and everything. So she said, I invested a lot of time in getting good ones. But it'll be 6 years. But the quarantine won't last that long.
No, it is going to last 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I keep them.
Yeah, it will last a couple of years.
Yeah. So in 2 years, I'll show you something.
Okay. Speaking of art, there's one thing that I'll show you guys that's hanging in here. This is a painting of my kitty Band-Aid. That was my Band-Aid that helped me heal after my car wreck. And he was my best friend for almost 18 years. And Gary had this made up for me. Is that beautiful? I want to have all my cats done. But I look at this and he just inspires me and just heals me still, even though he's not in the physical anymore. His energy is always near me. So isn't that gorgeous? I just wanted to share that art. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it when people can be artists. My sister's, I can't do that. Anyway, let's go back to our question. Since it appears that COVID-19 doesn't kill as many people as the flu, why are we in lockdown? We talked a little bit about this last night. One is it's more contagious than the flu. We have no immune system for it. There's no vaccine for it. Those are the obvious reasons. The next thing, and we talked about this last night, there are complications they are finding out, just like what I have. I have a heart issue. I have some inflammation around my heart and around my esophagus. They've also found that there are complications, lingering complications where it can cause kidney damage. And there are more people with COVID-19 ending up on dialysis. So there are lots of complications with it. And, I compared it to bobcat fever, which I've had 2 kitties die from, and they get it from a virus that is in a bobcat. The tick bites the bobcat and then it bites the cat, and it pretty much destroys their inside. That is also a COVID type virus that's in animals. And it's an awful way to die. It is an awful way for a cat to die. I never want to witness it again. And with Mango, when we found out, we had her put down right away. With Blade, we did not. And he suffered so much. It's awful. And people are suffering like that too, that get hit with it hard. They're really suffering. So we don't want people to be suffering over this. The biggest reason is, well, all the others are important, of course. But the big reason to stay put, to shelter in place, and that this needs to continue is because there are more cases of the coronavirus, of this COVID-19, than there are of the flu. And it's overwhelming our healthcare system. And when he started explaining how that filters down into our society, it's huge, because the people that are out there that are fighting for us every day, our nurses, our doctors, our emergency medical people, our firemen, all of these healthcare and different systems that we have in place are being overwhelmed, and they're actually being hit pretty hard by all of this. And it overwhelms the healthcare system, and that's when they have to find alternative places for bodies to be, for nursing, to help nurse people back to health. And they're setting up these big convention centers all over the place to house people that have the COVID-19 virus. And so that is the number one reason, and the cost of that is absolutely devastating to all the states that are being hit really hard. Now, it's the way that it's working, it's hitting the big cities first. And the reason, and Cuomo talked about this, Governor Cuomo talked about this yesterday, it hit the big cities first. Europe flies into LaGuardia in New York, and that's their main hub. So they brought it in, and it started spreading through a very densely populated area. For China flies into California more. So California got hit. Another big hub is Detroit, and they have international flights going in. So you can track this by where the international flights are coming into the US, and that's where you're going to see the most cases. Well, not everybody that flies into, like, Nashville. In Nashville, we have a lot of people flying in because of the country music business, the publishing. This is the number one industry here is actually publishing. People think it's country music, but it's the publishing business. And people come from all over the world here. So we started getting hit hard. And because the country music people spoke up, especially Dolly Parton, they went into lockdown and the curb just fell off. It was wonderful. That is proving that it works. The reason there are not as many deaths as the flu is because they started shutting everything down. We would be quadruple at least if we hadn't shut everything down. So that's why there's not as many cases as there is the flu, as many deaths, I mean, as the flu, because we started shutting everything down and the vulnerable didn't get hit as much. However, densely populated areas like our nursing homes, like the meat packing places, they're getting hit really hard. Wherever people are in close quarters, that's where they're getting hit. And it's affecting the poor communities because look who works at these places. The nursing homes, it's usually lower income folks, and they have to go out, they have to work. They have to work. So they're going into the nursing homes, they're infected, they're asymptomatic, they go to a workplace that is highly vulnerable, like nursing homes, and they're inadvertently spreading it because they have no symptoms. They don't know that they're passing it on to the seniors. And then once one person gets it, it spreads like wildfire. And because they are so vulnerable, they will die quicker. As I said yesterday, 70 people in one nursing home in New Jersey have died. They are, and this is, I'm just grateful that my dad died when he did, because he didn't end up on a freezer truck like so many people have, where they have dozens of people in the back of a freezer truck because they can't even process the bodies fast enough. That there's the nursing home or the funeral homes are overwhelmed. Even here in Nashville, they couldn't keep up with the cremations. My dad, even at that time, because we had a tornado in Nashville and a lot of people died, so they were already backlogged, and then they became more backlogged after this hit. So all kinds of systems are impacted that we don't think about, which shuts everything down. And then the poor population, and the reason that it's affecting them, or the lower income, is because a lot of times they live in housing where they're in a 2-room house and they've got a lot of family members there, and they can't be 6 feet apart from their family members if somebody's sick, because they're on top of each other. So they're setting up these wonderful private consultations with these families, teaching them how to self-isolate if they're in a home with only 2 rooms. And there's a lot of family members there. So they're educating people how they can do this. So that is the long and the short of it. It is, and it makes sense once you see everything laid out. Now, if any of you have anything else that you want to add to that, please raise your hand. Do you have anything, Ferris?
Yeah, and I don't know why it didn't hit me before this. For those folks, when someone gives you this old new saw about it's a conspiracy to kill off all the old folks, because look at what's happening in the nursing homes. How many old folks are working in the meatpacking plants?
Yeah. You look for where the workers are that are in these facilities, and they're out in the community. They're out and about, and they're picking it up. And the reason this is so deadly for everybody is a good majority of the people, the vast majority of the people, are asymptomatic. and they're out there not knowing that they are spreading it to everybody. And then they come across somebody who is in service somewhere, and that person takes it home to their family, and maybe one member's working at a nursing home and another person's in a meat packing place. Maybe another person is in a stadium somewhere handing out popcorn or beer or something like that, and it's a packed place. And now you have it spreading to all kinds of people. And again, you've got the vulnerable, and there doesn't always seem to be a rhyme or reason, because babies have died, you know, teens have died. They seem to be the most protected for some reason, are the teenage kids. We don't know why that is. There's a lower death rate there, but then people in their 20s and their 30s, they have linked it to people that have a greater incident of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, lung issues is number one. Smokers, huge smokers. So if you're a smoker, you want to stay in. You do not want to go out. You are very, very vulnerable. So, you know, that is the reason that we must do this. And if we had done this early on, we were warned weeks before. And this is, you know, as a spiritual being living in this physical world, it is my right to be angry that so many people were put at risk. So many people, tens of thousands of people, didn't have to die if they had just quarantined us, and they've done the science of this just 2 weeks earlier. Tens of thousands of people would have been, they would still be with us.
One more comment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And they showed all the charts, by the way.
People named Trump especially have been talking about the WHO and how they've been sucking up to China. The WHO has probably been a little soft on China, more than they should be, but at the time this hit, there were 15 Americans working in the WHO in high positions. Every one of them knew about it. They all reported it. The day after, what's his name, the head of the WHO heard about it from China, he told Trump. They did not keep it a secret.
No, they did not.
Just had to throw that in.
Okay. And here's the thing about discrediting any kind of special services. We are shooting ourselves in the head, not just the foot. We're shooting ourselves in the head anytime that we do that. And there's been so much conspiracy about the FBI and the CIA and the, you know, the WHO now. And there's so much conspiracy. And is there problems there? Yes, there is. There is in every organization. Should it be looked at? Should it be corrected? Yes. But for the most part, these organizations are of service to us. And when we discredit them, there was the FBI was investigating this in New Mexico, this young girl who had been murdered by her family. And she had been sexually molested and beaten and tortured and then cut into little pieces. And the FBI had to go in there, and they had been so discredited that they couldn't even do their job. They don't just report about national things, folks. You know, they're more than that. There are some big cases out there, and because everybody's spreading all this bull about them, they can't even do their job like that. And that poor girl, you know, and outside her family, the people that loved her can't even get a good investigation because people are discrediting them. And it just hurt my soul. It hurt when I understood that, and I thought, people don't realize that it's not just about, you know, our government stuff. It goes far deeper than that. And we've got to be conscious of that. As conscious beings, we've got to look at the whole of the picture, not just these little isolated things. And, you know, I said yesterday, you know, when my aunt, when my dad told my aunt to throw away all his medicine, all of his diabetes medicine and everything, and he started having some real bad problems and ended up having a mini stroke, and you know, was at the doctor, and she realized inadvertently, innocently, by throwing away his medication, that he could have died. And it just, I watched her collapse to the floor in pain, and she would have held herself responsible for the rest of her life had anything happened to her brother. And it was innocent. And by people spreading this stuff innocently, we could be causing other people to die. And so we have to be conscious of what we are saying and do our due diligence. And before we spread this stuff, you know, let's know what we're spreading, because it's far more reaching than we even understand. So as an earth being, as a, you know, three-dimensional person here that cares about our society, we must get the truth out and help people to understand why we need to support these places. That doesn't mean we shouldn't act and fix what's wrong. We absolutely should. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I said that yesterday. You know, there's good in everything. Let's pick out that good, and let's, you know, let them do what they're here to do. So, Andrew, you want to go ahead and read the comments?
Well, it's,
thank you. I say that every time, but I'm so appreciative.
yeah, and it's not really a comment about the topic itself. At the beginning, Alice was asking about, she can't find the movie The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, and I don't think there is an actual movie of it, or I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it's just the book.
Oh, okay. I thought
And
somebody said that there was a movie.
Because wasn't that the choice for Thursday?
Yes. So that's the book, and there's an audio book.
Yeah. So there's no movie yet. However, it's a good thought to turn it into a film.
Yes. It is so amazing. It is so amazing.
So I think we need to change the movie for Thursday, or make it a book week if people are able to.
Yeah, and I put in the
um,
newsletter that metaphysical movie or book. I think I put both on there.
Yeah.
That we'll be discussing, because I know it is a book.
Okay.
So yeah, so you can either get the book and read it, or if you're like me and I like to learn while I burn. So when I'm out exercising and when I'm doing stuff around the house or gardening, I love to listen to books on tape, on audio, and Audible. Scribed, if you're not familiar with Scribed, it's a wonderful subscription. It's very little, and you got access to all these books. And I don't know if they have that one or not, but I have a membership with Scribed, and they've got all kinds of books there. And it's just one low monthly fee, and you can listen to as many or read. You also have the ebooks as well, and it's great.
With the ebooks, with Scribed, if you haven't signed up to, you can get a free trial for Scribed, and also through your libraries. There's an app called OneDrive that I've downloaded, where you can it might be available as an ebook through your local library. So check online to your library. So even though they're closed, they're online. Whatever is online, like the ebooks, you can probably find it there. So that answers Alice's question. Maureen mentioned Libby app is free.
What's
and
that,
uses
Paris?
your
Andrew, actually, there's also at least here well, yeah, Maureen mentioned there's an app called Libby, Libby, that if you're a member of your library, you can download, you can borrow e-books and audio books. You don't even have to go into the library. You can just do it right on your phone.
Oh, cool.
And there's no charge for it.
That's awesome.
Go
Now
ahead.
I like to own I bought it from Audible because I've listened to it so many times, and I'm listening again. And I'm going to do, Mary, you said you had the physical book?
You're muted. There you go.
I thought I did. I was looking for it again last night, and I can't find it. I think it's in a box someplace that never got
Unpacked?
unpacked when it
still
somehow
have
got put it up in the storage in the attic, and I'm not going up there to get it. I'll just get another one.
I'm going to go ahead and order the physical book too. And as I'm listening to it, highlight those really
I'd like to do that too. Yes.
Okay, sorry, Andrew. Go ahead.
I don't need to apologize. It's fine. The only other thing was Renee said she had to leave, and thank you.
Okay, great.
So I don't know if anyone has anything else. Just put up your hand, or and talk if you want to talk. I just I just find this whole thing interesting. This whole experience with where we're at, and how things have changed and how they've helped the world, and the positive things that have come out. Look at things as more positive than a negative, because you know what? At the end of the day, it's how we look at things, because we can look at it negative and then be down, but rather than be down, we should and use the time to just enjoy the moment. And so I'm just enjoying the moments.
I am too. And it's really cool because we are being shown that there's proof that we are global. It isn't just about each individual country. We are a global community now. And this has affected us globally. It's not just about the United States. It's just that the United States has handled it the poorest. It didn't have to be this bad, but it is what it is. So we're global. We're all being affected. It shows that global warming is real. It's showing that the constant 24/7 work, people are being asked to slow down. And people, when you do go out, people are nicer. Most people are. There's still those people in our areas, and I'll just tell you what I call them. I call them the yahoos. Because they'll run into a crowd and go, Yahoo! This virus ain't gonna get me. And so I just call them the yahoos, because it's just, you just shake your head and go, are you kidding? But some people think that they're not vulnerable to this, and they don't know until they find out. And unfortunately, it's usually because they get sick, and they are not always the healthiest demographics. So that's really unfortunate. But for the most people are more polite than I've seen them, less road rage because there are less vehicles on the road. I think another change that may happen out of this, because there's been such a change in our climate so quickly, I think those people like Tennessee, I'm hoping this will happen, mass transit will become another topic that gets put back on the table. And I think more and more communities need to have better mass transit so that we can keep that pollution down. So I think a lot of really amazing things. Look at all the communities that have cropped up on Zoom all over the place. Look at how we've been able to connect like this, to share information. And it is pretty amazing. I love it. People are being called. I'm being called to channel information that I'm sharing to you. Today, this is Earth information. When it is channeled information, that'll be tomorrow, and that's different. It's altogether different looking at the soul view of what is going on. And I'm amazed. It's cool.
And you know what, Cindy?
Yeah.
We're talking about going to Mars.
Yeah.
And we do need national boundaries for a while, at least. I don't think we need walls, but you know, going to different planets, for crying out loud, pretty soon walls ain't gonna matter.
That's true. That's true. And by the way, here's another question that I had come in, and I forgot about this, because somebody wrote and asked, do you think that disinfectant is safe in some capacity to ingest? Or
No! Sorry.
yesterday, since that was mentioned by the President of the United States, poison control has been overwhelmed with calls. I don't know if anybody's tried it. They didn't say that. Just the head of the poison control actually came on and said, we have been overwhelmed by calls. But they didn't say if people actually tried it. It might just be questions. Is this viable? You know, people might. So people, we've got to have responsible leadership. We've got to. You've got to watch what you say because people are listening. And so these are ideas that we talked about this last night, that you have brainstorming sessions. And in our brainstorming sessions, when Ferris and I get together, and even Gary, we are, we put everything on the table, in even the dumbest ideas. I mean, somebody thought about talking gecko. And when somebody first said it, they would have thought, what? That is dumb. And it's been one of the most popular commercials out there. You know, the talking chihuahua, all these things. People come up with these ideas and you never know what's going to hit. Is UV, can you shoot it down the body? No, that's not going to work, and it's going to cause internal problems. But light therapy is viable. So let's search. So when, President 45 is a stream of consciousness person where he just shoots out all these ideas. So you've got to listen closely to what might work. I just don't think he should be doing it in front of the press because stuff like this happens. It needs to be in private. But he is, now I might not like a lot of things that he does, and I don't, but I also like the fact that he is a creative thinker, and you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and you got to look at some of this stuff and go, you know what, there might be an idea. If you chase down that rabbit hole a little bit, you might actually find something viable there. So that's my thoughts.
Satpram, do you want to come and talk your comment, or do you want me to read it for you?
Thank you. You can read it. It's kind of off topic. It was just something that I've been thinking about.
I don't think it's off topic at all.
Okay. All right.
I didn't see it.
Been on me along with what we've been talking about just how when I go out for a walk every morning, connect to Mother Earth, and I can feel energetically, can feel changes and shifts, and she's happy.
You are 100% right. I feel the happiness.
Yeah.
Well said.
And so it was on my mind when I did my walk this morning. It's what are we going to pay attention? Are those in the powerful seats going to pay attention to the response that the planet is having? And is it going to have any kind of permanent visitation and effect by those in the know, those in power that can make these kinds of changes? I don't hear people talking. I hear people talking a little bit about it, but not a whole lot.
Yeah,
Well,
you know, and that's a shame that we're not talking about that enough. And I just read, I think it was yesterday, that some more uh, uh, of the Obama era restrictions on the coal industry have been done away with by the EPA. They were already doing away with them, and apparently it's now final. So I think this needs to be a clarion call to folks who have the sense to look outside and see that maybe we do need to keep some of those regulations, and maybe even a little bit more.
I just got goosebumps everywhere when you were saying that.
yeah, I did too. And I wrote it down here. Yeah. And, you know, to that point, Setpram, the reason that the administration, the current administration, is not going to do anything about this is financial, because his friends run these companies that are high polluters. And so he's going to first do things that benefit people that he knows. And so unfortunately, he's not going to pay attention to that. I don't think he's conscious that way. He is conscious of money. And that's his big driver through this lifetime is money, and how he can get it for himself and for people he wants to respect him. And so, so unfortunately, I don't think if this administration stays in, that will happen. And that's a bummer, but it's just the truth of this particular administration.
Well, look at the head of the current head of the EPA, the acting head of the EPA. He was a coal lobbyist.
And I saw on the news that the guy that is now trying to find the vaccine for the COVID, he had a dog grooming place.
No, he was a breeder.
He was a breeder? Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah.
He was a breeder. Yeah. He did labradoodles. That's been his job. And all of a sudden he's put in this position because he
has had some other government positions, but nothing related to anything like this. And they were like assistant administrative position.
And this is what happens when our egoic self gets in the way of our common sense. You know, that can prevent us from finding real solutions to things, and having somebody that only wants to have his ego stroked, only wants people that are saying nice things. And if they don't like the nice things, then if nice things are not being said, they get fired. You know, and he only wants nice people that are nice. And there's a problem there. There's a real problem there. Because when you're in a leadership capacity, I mean, I get people blasting me all the time. Ferris is nice enough. He does the customer service. And when somebody blasts me, he doesn't even let me know, because it's just going to affect me. Unless there's a trend. If there's a trend, then Ferris always lets me know, because I need to know that as a responsible leader. But some of the stuff, if it's just hate stuff, he doesn't let me know, or I don't pay attention to it if it's sent to me. A lot of people will email me or text me on Facebook, and I just, it comes with the territory, and you just say, is there any validity to this? That's their opinion. And you move past it and you keep going. That's just the way it is. And that's true for all leaders. So I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Anybody else?
No, in the chat, no. So if you have something to say, please put up your hand and Ferris will unmute you or unmute yourself. Marielle?
Yes. This week, I watched an interview that Noam Chomsky gave to the National Observer and he talked about Trump's actions, not necessarily related to coal, but that was not encouraging.
Yeah.
Like ending the nuclear proliferation treaties. So there will be a lot of more money put on military budget, etc., etc. So like bailing out the airline industry for 45 billions. And anyway, that was supposedly the New York Times named Chomsky like the best thinker of the century or something.
You know what, Marielle? I'm glad you brought him up.
He's a bit of a leftist.
A bit of a leftist.
Yeah.
But he is so brilliant.
Yeah.
Even when I don't like what he says, I love to just hear him talk.
But he bring in this interview, in a way, it was very factual.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like that much money went there, this treaty has been ended, etc., etc. So anyway.
Those are the people that we have to listen to. And if you want to be sure of their facts, everything, they got that information somewhere. And if they don't cite that information, then you go searching for it. I always, you know, one of the downloads that I got is confirm everything. Confirm everything. And, you know, that's the first thing I did last night when I was hearing on that newscast. I started looking for that information elsewhere before I present it. So I always like to confirm. Now, not everybody needs to do that all the time. There are those people that we trust, and that's good. But for me, I'm geeking out on it because I just want to know. I want to see its source.
Some journalists do that.
Yeah.
There are now some people who check the facts, you know, that are brought or in the media.
And here's how the media. Now, I come from broadcasting, you know, and you know, I did lots of television and radio for many years, and you know, I know how that the backside works in all this, and it's about ratings, and it's about having to have sponsors. You know, the commercials that you hear are actually sponsors that you that pay the bills, and so you have to satisfy those, and the message can be skewed depending on who that person is. You know, their sponsorship. And so that's a big influencer. A lot of the television that you see, especially the local television, is owned by a company called Sinclair, and they are very right wing. And they formulate the messages, and they send it out to the newscasters who can no longer be true investigative reporters like we used to have. The people to trust are the newspapers. They are investigative reporters. So the New York Times, the Miami Herald, the Chicago Tribune, the Washington Post, those are all really good ones. If you hear somebody citing them, there is a reporter there that has done their job, and they have, you know, they try to be as unbiased as they can in reporting and just report the facts. And those are the people that you can trust. The news, they're going to put their own spin on it. It never used to be that way. You had to be neutral. You had to be bipartisan. And that was preached all through school, you know, but that doesn't happen anymore. And most of the people, like I would say a vast majority of Fox News now is all opinion writers. And the thing about an opinion writer is that it's their opinion, and it doesn't have to be based on fact. And that's a bummer for people that like those personalities. So really check out everything that they say. And there's some people just blatant lies, misinformation out there that just the reporter in me just goes, oh my God, I can't stand it. I just can't believe it.
We have a
fashion in that way.
we have a talk show on Sunday night on our national TV,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they put a footer with the truth. Let's say there's a minister that says something, but it's not live. It's registered,
okay.
so they can check. And then when the program is aired, they correct what the person says in the footer.
See, that's great when we can do stuff like that. And the other part that I don't like, what I see in the media these days is the president will say something one day and then he'll say something completely different the next day. I don't trust that. That's the reason that I have a problem and I have to check all this stuff out, because I don't like these things where you've said what you've said. And it's okay to say, you know what, I misspoke. It's okay. That's part of being human. But to try and say, I never said that, that's where the mistrust is coming in for so many people. Just, say, I've got to correct myself, that I misspoke. I was having a stream of consciousness and I'm sorry. And I'm going to, here's the truth on that science, or let the scientists speak. And that's what Theo said, is listen to the scientists. The channel group that Sheila Gillette channels. Listen to the scientists.
The scientists are not perfectly objective, but they won't go as far as the politicians.
Yeah.
And I can tell you something about scientists. The reason we have peer-reviewed research papers is so scientists can tear each other apart. And if you think I'm kidding, I'm not. They try to
molecules of emotion.
They try to disprove each other.
Mm-hmm. In the book Molecules of Emotion, Candace Pert talks about her experience as a woman doing research and how only men can get credit for this kind of research, if you've ever read it. And she really gives the inside scoop on how that.
That's a great book.
Yeah, it is a great book. Just a wonderful resource. If anybody ever, wants something kind of science-based there, and she was great.
And Cindy, I have to take a little bit of exception to what you said about newspapers. The Spanish-American War started in Cuba with the explosion of what was the ship? Oh crap. Can't remember the name of the ship that exploded. Anyway, Frederick Remington was, the sculptor, was a reporter then, and he was covering that story. William Randolph Hearst the owner of the Hearst newspapers, wanted to start a war there. Remington told him that everything was nice and calm. Hearst told him, you provide the pictures, I'll provide the war.
Yep. And that's why I named
Maine. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. That's why look for the investigative reporters that are Pulitzer Prize winning reporters, investigative reporters. So you look for somebody that's really trying to dig out the truth. And that's what I always do. Okay, what's this person's reputation? And I've got my people in, because I get the New York Times, and I have my favorite people that really dig into the truth. And you have to look at, you know, the local newspapers. They're owned by folks, and you've got to look what they're.
And they can make mistakes.
Oh, they make lots of mistakes, but you know, they can word it. If it's legitimate, then, you know, they're going to put out the truth, but they get skewed. Everybody wants their voice heard, of course. So we just got to do our due diligence. That's what it means to live consciously. That's what that means. Not just believing what you hear. Even if you want to believe it. There's a lot of stuff I just want to believe.
Well, yeah.
And I'm like, and Ferris and I have this conversation all the time. Dang it, I wanted to believe that, but it's just not true. So darn, in my dreams, it can be true. In a fiction book, it can be true.
And sometimes even the pictures are wrong. Like people take pictures like from a few years ago in another country, and they say, here's the problem today in our location.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, yes.
But the picture has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. People say the camera never lies. I can make a camera lie like a dog.
Yep. He can put on the Barbie lens when he takes my pictures, and I can look nice and thin and young. I love it. Okay. It was a real awakening to move from the Washington Post being delivered to the small town papers here.
Oh, yeah.
In Carolina, where I live. Yeah. I'll bet. Mary has a lot of insight. Is it okay if I share this, Mary? You have a lot of insight into what goes on in Washington because you work there. So do you want to say anything about that?
Well,
Unmuted.
I worked for a huge international law firm in Washington, right down the street from the White House. I used to walk by the White House over my lunch period just to have a beautiful walk over to the monument area and stuff like that. I didn't walk by the White House towards the end there. But we did a lot of work with the government people. We did all kinds of filings and stuff with Treasury, and so I got to know a lot of the people who work in the government as really the background workers that were just terrific. And
Oh, you're talking about those deep state people.
yeah, something like that. No. But there are some dedicated people who really do a good job. But the leaders and their bosses, they've told me, have been pretty much fired or moved, so that they don't have the leadership that they used to have. And they said it's really difficult for them, many of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know, in today's world, if you had the kind of leadership that we currently have in a business, they'd have been fired a long time ago. It's true. You just don't have the leadership there, and there's always, this. Actually, the one thing that you can be certain of our current president is he tells you exactly who he is. Believe him. When he tells you who he is, believe him. And people keep saying, well, he's not really that way. Yes, he is. And there is a trail that goes back through his whole life that you can find if you care to look for it. And if you want to know who the man really is, that's who he is. He doesn't lie about that. What was that, Mary?
That might be the only thing that he doesn't lie about. That wasn't nice. Sorry.
Well, he is that. When I first started doing my research for the book, I did not understand that about him at all. And I started doing this research, and I'm like, wait a minute. One day he said this, and then you know, a few days later he said this, and then he said this, and now he's back at this. And I had a hard time tracking it. And I'm like, has he always been this bad? And I went back, because I used to think he was fine. I didn't have an opinion when all this started. I developed an opinion based on my research, and I'm like, dang, this man just, you know, he's a stream of consciousness guy. It's just whatever his truth is in the moment, that's what he spews out.
And
You know what I think is the coolest?
What was that, Set Prem?
he also denies that he ever said what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he
Yeah.
say?
That's what makes it really challenging, because you're like, wait a minute, but there's proof that you said this. You know, when people were saying he never said that this virus was the Democratic hoax. Well, I downloaded the video because I always do that in case they try and go up there and clean up their mess. I take screen caps of Twitter stuff because I want a record of stuff, because I'm writing this book. So I've got to have records of stuff. And then Set Prem, the other thing was, there's only 15 people and it will magically disappear by next week. You know, if we had handled it at that time, took action, all these people would not have died. And that's what, as an earth being, that's what bothers me. We could have taken action, but I don't think anybody would have taken a future virus as seriously, because now we have seen the result. This is now part of history, how this has all been handled. And now we will know the next time they say something like this, pay attention.
What's your book? What's your book about?
It is, it's called The Beauty of Donald Trump, the divine or the soul view of a corrupt presidency. And it is looking at, there's a purpose for everything, and he is here and has a divine purpose. And I absolutely understand that. And I'm getting goosebumps when I say that. And so many things are going to change because he came here to be such an ass about a lot of things. In fact, the first, and this is channeled information, by the way, most of the book is channeled. And then I also record the facts. And the first thing that I was told when I was told to write the book, and I didn't know how, and I said, I can't write this, I don't know anything about politics. And I was getting in the shower and I heard out loud, Donald Trump so loved the world, he was willing to come here to be a total asshole. And I immediately knew it was about soul contracts. And out of that, look at all the beauty that has happened. People are now saying, wow, how do I misrepresent things? We have to look at ourselves and say, do I do that? I mean, you know, when we're pointing a finger, three are pointing back at us, and we've got to look at ourselves and say, how am I misrepresenting myself? Am I changing the facts? Am I skewing things for my own benefit? We all do those things. Look at the beautiful things that have come out of this. The women's movement. People are learning the Constitution of the United States. Even people in other countries are learning about our Constitution. They're reading it, and they never read it before. And they're going, wow, you know, I never really studied it. We're all learning about our history. And people weren't paying attention to that. They were so focused, you know, you saw people going around like this all the time. And now people are having discussions. That's a beautiful thing. So there's a lot of beauty that's coming out of this, much of which we don't even know yet, which is why I couldn't already finish the book. There's so much good stuff that's going to come out of this. And it's unfortunate, but we called this to ourselves. And that's what the book talks about, is how we call these things in because we're unwilling to make changes. And for those of us who are very spiritual in nature, very metaphysical beings, which I think most of us are, we like to be up here all the time. We like to be, you know, from the heart chakra up and live in that, but we are earth beings and we have to live in the lower quadrant as well. We have to land. And it's teaching us that we have to, yes, we are spiritual beings, but we have to land and live here in this reality. And so it's a very interesting book, and I'm learning so much as I'm doing this. I get amazed because when I channel, I don't know what I've written until after the fact. I have to go back and look at things because it just comes so fast. I'm just recording and I don't get to really process the information until after. And I just get amazed at what I'm learning. Set Prem, did you want to? Okay. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody? So, yes, we can, and we can still act. And this was my big question, when I was channeling is, I am an activist and I'm about truth and fighting for the people. Can I still do that and stay in integrity and be heart-centered? And the answer was absolutely. Marianne Williamson, I still am so grateful that Lorelei and I went to her. She spoke in Atlanta and we went together, and it was so amazing when she said, that when the women got the right to vote, it wasn't the government that changed it. The people rose up. And when they stopped slavery, when they abolished slavery, it wasn't the government, the people rose up. So as a people, we must rise up and we must act for things that are unjust. And so it's okay to do that. Do it from the heart. And that is not always easy, but if you do it from a place of hatred and anger and judgment, the judgment is okay while we're here, but judge it in order to act, but not judgment as in, we don't know that we don't understand that there's a higher purpose to all of this. There always is a higher purpose that we might not see. Did I make sense at all? Was that, did that come across right? So we can act out, but act out of, I am doing this because this is what I'm doing for the people. And so I will continue to act.
Well, the politicians are called representatives. It's because they're supposed to represent what the majority want. So it has to come from grassroots.
Yes.
The changes have to come from there.
Mm-hmm. Well said. That's exactly right. Well, everybody, I don't want to keep you. I know that it's Saturday, and although we're going to be staying inside today now that it's going to be raining all day, and we'll be watching the thunderstorm. I always like to sit on the front porch and watch. I love the light show. So I hope that it's beautiful where you are. Well, it's beautiful no matter what. And like my grandpa said, it's a beautiful day anytime you're on this side of the grass. Any last comments, everybody? And has this been helpful? Oh, Taryn, you want to unmute yourself?
I just want to say that it's a minor point here, but I have tried to email you repeatedly, and it just comes back every time that it's refused by the host or unable to deliver, or
Okay.
So I have I don't know what to try.
I'm putting it in chat right now. Here's another address that you can send it to, Cindy@energizedlivingtoday.com.
And well, okay, and I don't. You said something about on your membership site, but I don't know what that is. I don't know how to find it.
I haven't set that up yet, Taryn.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Ferris will be setting it up so we can
So,
put
so
all
right now you're ahead of the curve.
Okay, yeah. And no wonder.
he's behind, he's behind the times because he's been so sick. Yeah, he's been
Okay.
the last 2 weeks. So he hasn't gotten a lot done, and I'm pedaling as fast as I can, folks. So if I've been delayed, I'm doing it's really helping because Susie gave us so much information the other day. I had a hard time following it. So I'm going in and I'm putting up screens to help people really get the information. And it'll probably be Monday before I even get that finished because I want to spend some time doing laundry and cleaning the house and stuff.
Yeah.
I need a little
Things
time.
like that, they got to be done. Yeah, well, I just got off for a while because my daughter showed up, one of my daughters, and so I had to go talk to her for a little bit. And anyway, but since I don't have any success writing you, I decided I better say it out loud here while I can, you know.
And here's Ferris. It's very easy. If you want to direct it towards me, then it's Cindy at Energized Living Today. And if it's Ferris, it's Ferris at Energized Living Today.
Okay.
And Taryn, I've been dying to ask you.
Yeah.
Is that a banjo on the wall behind you?
No, it is a drum.
Oh, okay.
It is a drum. And my mother and father took a trip one time, and they went into a store on an Indian reserve in New Mexico, and they had a lot of things for sale. And my dad, he really liked that drum, and then he can't. But he said it's too expensive, and he came out and got in the car. And then he turned around and said, "No, I've got to go get that drum." And he did. I'm glad he did too. You know, it's hard for me to use it now, being as disabled as I am. But
but just think how hard it would be if it was a banjo.
Well, I mean, I couldn't even start to do that because I didn't know the handles worked right. But yeah, it'd be a considerable banjo if it was. It'd be a heavy-duty banjo for sure.
I've got a drum like that, Taryn, that I at Marilyn's. Marilyn Harper's event. She had this wonderful thing just before her event started where we all made our own drums, and I made one like that. The problem is we're in Tennessee and it's very humid here. So when it's humid, it loosens up and it doesn't have a good sound. So not always good for Tennessee.
This is an excellent drum. I know and they were dividing up all my mother's stuff after she died, you know, and they asked me, would you still be interested in that walrus stomach drum that you always used to play? It was my grandmother got it in Alaska. So, and I said, well, can you still play it? And well, it's getting pretty fragile. I said, well, then if I can't play it, I don't want it. But I'd sure like that big drum that Dad bought. Oh, well, okay, we'll send it to you.
That's great.
Cool.
And she took all the stuff that she sent to me to some company that specialized in packing things and had them pack it up so it'd be sent here and arrive in one piece. But she said to the guy that was packing it, before you wrap it up, give it a thump, you know, and he didn't. He said, wow.
Good sound. That's great.
Yeah. So
great. Well, thank you so much, Taryn. And
anyway,
yeah, there's the information, everybody. Cindy at Energized Living Today and Ferris at Energized Living Today. And tomorrow we are going to do a meditation in the World Viewing Room, along with new downloads that I've gotten, including one where I kind of got in trouble a little bit. I've told you before, when I get too judgmental, I can't even get into the world viewing room. I'm kicked out, because that is a place where you come in with non-judgment. And on those days, maybe I've watched too much news or something, and I'm angry at what I see, and then, and then I don't get in the world viewing room. So we've got to leave all that judgment out, because when there's disorder on earth, there is order in heaven. There's order, always order to what is going on, and we have to stay focused on that order while acting on this earth plane. And so we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. And I thank you all for being here today. This has been wonderful, as always. And go ahead and unmute yourself. Everybody just say bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Have a wonderful
Love
year.
Tomorrow.
Namaste.
Happy Saturday.
Home, but still.